This video is about crawling. Actually about me setting up a truck for a competition I've got coming up at the BrazinScale. Now, this is a project I've been working on kind of off screen. I haven't actually recorded anything until now, right here. This is the Amazon version of the Hilow. So it's kind of a knockoff design and all that, but it's definitely got some differences. I'm going to show this to you, and then these right here, these shocks, they're coming off and they're going back on this truck, which I'll actually be competing with, SX01. So yeah, and I'm just going to show you guys taking the shocks off, putting on. I'm going to run my mouth about some different things, and let's get to that table. Let's get busy. Let's start off with this right here. Now granted, I don't have the body mounts, I don't have the chassis stuff in the middle or any of that, but this is the Amazon chassis. Kind of a high-low design with everything up front. I've got the wheelbase set at about 13.5. Yeah, the front drive shaft I was able to fit is actually a Capra drive shaft, and you can see how close it is to that motor. I had to use a stubby Holmes motor to make this thing work. So a little 1800 kV motor to start with on this to see how that works out. The DriveTech shocks, those are nice. And I took these off of X01 right there, just so I could see how they would fit and all that. So I got a whole nother set of shocks ordered. And the new shocks, they all come with this cap right here. Sorry for the light there. But I'll come with the offset cap and these short ends. So I've got those on the way. Now, if you notice, this has an element front end on it. So element front end and an axial 10.3 portal rear. So it's actually a pretty neat deal. It should have a lot of overdrive to it. Now, granted, I could put overdrive down into the portals on here, and I believe there's an overdrive ring and pinion I could put on here as well to bring that up to speed. However, I want to try it like it is. It's easy to just change the gears in the portals. That's easy enough. I'm not sure. I've seen on some of the Facebook groups they were talking about this transmission that is also part of it, but you got to order the transmission separately. Doesn't really have a whole lot of gear reduction in there, so I may have an issue with that. I don't know yet. But it looks pretty good, and what I'm going to do is I've got the beefy steering links ordered. The front is going to sit about right here, about right there. The back, I'm going to use the ultra soft springs on the DriveTech shocks, and it should be sitting pretty much almost bottomed out. So we should have something like that right there. So once we get that, I kind of think this thing's going to be all right. I may do something with some high clearance links, see if I can get those up and out of the way. So the front will kind of be sprung, the back will be kind of a droop setup. At least that's the game plan. So, and I've also ordered the Axial WB8 HD Driveshaft set, so I can put something together for that back drive shaft. So hopefully be able to get this thing going before too long. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with a body just yet, but the way this one is set up, it's probably gonna be something like a creep body right there, just because it's so narrow and all that. But then again, who knows what I'll end up with. But anyway, I just wanted to show you guys this before I take the shocks off and get those put back on that. So we're gonna get into that truck right there. And this right here is the UGRC Dirty South chassis. And when I took the links loose, I left it in the actual stands that I print from a file on Thingiverse, and it actually kept everything together. There are no bolts in the back, but the links are still there, so I kind of be careful. I don't want to mess with all that. But it's got a Holmes 2040 kV snub nose motor, GT5 radio, got a Holmes Crawlmaster Mini V2. This one has a Reese 888 direct power servo. That is a beast of a servo, let me tell you guys. So this one has an angle on it. I believe it's 12 degrees, I believe. It's got a portal axle up front out of the Capra, servo on axle of course, and a 10.3 rear. Now the reason for the 10.3 rear was to make it narrower to get to the gates. You can drive and position the front all around. So you can get to all of that, you know, easy enough. Now, on the back, you guys can see that it is narrow. And these are actually like Techno body mounts, I believe I made. But anyway, the back, nice and narrow. It does have the wider hexes, and I'll show you guys why I did all that. The transmission is also by, oh heck, who is UGRC. The transmission is by UGRC, and it uses Red Cat Gen 8 internal gears. So yeah, and I believe there's some overdrive in the transmission case that they have set up on this. So with all that said, it's time to get the shocks and links. And oh, I want to show you guys these shock bands right here by DZRC. Those are awesome. They really help control that front end on steep climbs. But anyways, we'll go ahead and get the camera set up and start doing a little bit of work. Some of the tools I use are this right here, a lot. So, but anyway, I really got my hopes up for this thing right here. I really do. I really like how it's up front like that and all that, but I've already showed you guys all that. Now, I will tell you this. I'm going to go ahead and order the BrazinScale chassis too. The high-low from those guys. I've got with MFR, Metal Fab by Reed, and he's custom lathing, cutting me out some chassis supports. So I have plenty of bars to work with, some to keep in stock, which should be pretty good, hopefully. That way I'll have them in stock, you know, and I can just work with them as I need. There we go. All right, so yeah, I really got my hopes up for this. Front drive shaft, got to make sure that I keep that center because it's so short. I got to make sure I keep all that right. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and I like these shocks. Go ahead and get on this thing and take it apart. That's actually the way it's going to sit pretty much for driving. So the back will be pretty much a droop setup. So it should be all right, I'm hoping. As far as the links go, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I just dug through my link bin and came up with stuff. That's all I did on that. Maybe when I do the actual video of this particular vehicle, I'll measure them out. That way at least you guys will have a measurement on stuff like that, you know? Something to work with when it comes to these chassis. And as far as the rear drive shaft on this goes, not exactly sure what I'm gonna do with that just yet. I may have to cut and glue and piece together a drive shaft to make the distance. And if that's what I've got to do, then at least I'll know what I got to do when it comes time when I actually get the real chassis by BrazinScale. Okay, we've got what we need off of that. Time to get this guy over. Now, if you guys have noticed by now, I'm not doing the whole time-lapse thing because I want to be able to have some chat time and all that wonderful stuff. So I figured now's a good way to do that. So while I'm putting this together, we got the winter series coming up, and this is going to be one of my trucks that I run. And I say one of my trucks. Our winter series, we loosely base it off of Sorca. Loosely, and I do mean loosely. And we do use like typical tire rules and stuff like that, you know, bodies and all that. Mainly is a thing that we do that on with the class 1 stuff. That we actually make sure the bodies have the proper coverage and bumpers and all that stuff. But when it comes to class 2, You know, we have a lot of fun with our Class 2s. Class 2 Pros are the same way. Class 3s are pretty awesome. And considering you can go and pick up an Axial SEX 10.3 right out of the box, you have a dig unit. Granted, that dig unit may not be very good. You know, it may not be very good at all. But, and I say that because of the dig servo. That leaves a lot to be desired. So with that in mind, the dig is there though, and it can be used. So some of this stuff right here can be so tedious trying to get that bolt into there. Now what's really bad is when you try to, or when you have to shim it and you're just using washers, trying to get the washers to go in there and hold everything up. And then the washers don't want to stay and you're like, oh my God, driving you crazy and all that stuff. And one of the reasons I really like the crawlers is because of things like this. You can totally build a crawler from the ground up the way you want it. And it doesn't have to be all low center of gravity, you know, competition. No, you can totally scale them out the way you want them to be. And yeah, you can build your own vehicle from scratch. So that's totally doable, you know? And that's one of the things I like about the crawler world, is that you can still do that kind of stuff. There we go.
Yeah, I do like this bolt.
So pretty much, that's all I was after right there. Yeah, those D straps right there. Remember years ago, I did the rubber bands, and that was awesome. I guess now I'm going to do an operational check on this and make sure everything is good to go. So here we are, powered up, ready to go. Now, I've heard some people talk about why their, you know, Outrunner style motor is making this chatter right here. You hear that? That is the looseness between the pinion gear and the spur. And the reason is, the way this ESC works is it drives this motor like a stepper motor, meaning it goes and stops, goes and stops, goes and stops to make a full revolution. And it does it all in sequence. Just like that right there. Get that down low here. Anyway, something like that right there. So that's why you hear that noise. Now, as you spin it on up, it goes into more of a drive mode, which is not as chattery. But, I mean, overall, that's why you hear that. This is what you're hearing. So, and that's just kind of the way it drives, the way they have to start these up so where they don't clog and all that. So, but anyway, it's ready to go. Let's go and put some tires on this thing. Now, I want to show you guys something here on these Pro Build wheels. Hopefully you guys can see them. You can see the difference between the front and the back. Different offset on there. This is to narrow up that capper front end as much as possible. That's to kind of bring out the back along with the wider wheel hexes. So let's go ahead and get these put on. Actually, I want to show you guys. Hopefully you guys can see it. It kind of had a bit of a rubbing issue over here. So I'm going to put this one on this side. Hopefully I get all my clearances and all right. And these Pro Build wheels actually have the JConcepts inners in them, the inner plastics with the brass. So they kind of have a little bit of added weight to them here. So now that I've got the wheels put in place, I got the washers on them, everything tightened up beautifully, let's go ahead and give it a spin real quick. I did tighten the pinion and spur gear up just a little bit. not bad. Maybe a little bit quieter, a little bit different tone. Now I want to show you guys something about the shocks here. Let me make sure I'm in the screen here. Now the shocks, you notice how I've got the offset caps. That's to actually shorten the overall shock. So, and what that does inadvertently is it adds a side load. Your pressure, what's holding the axle or chassis up right now, is here and here. This right here actually has a side load effect to it. Now, the way that we run most of these shocks, which is pretty close to bottom out, you know, somewhere within this range right here, the piston is way up here in the body. So with the piston being way up there, you have a separation here, or a vertical separation actually on this one, between the O-rings, which help hold the shaft center, and the piston, which also helps hold the shaft center. So that helps out. Now, if we run a stiff spring and we ran it like this, we could actually have an issue with the shaft, because it is actually side loaded just a little bit. But we run these so low that generally you're just not going to have an issue with that. Huh. All right. Look at the body. See, I've got that folded down. I've also got some rubbing plastic on it, where you can actually rub that, as where you're not tearing into the actual Lexan. Even though it looks like I'm still getting maybe a little bit of a crack starting over here, you can actually see it where it's been rubbing pretty well. So with all that said, I mean, I don't have any sliders on the vehicle itself, so those act like the slider. Guys, if you're still watching at this point, thank you. Hopefully they didn't hit you with too many mid-roll ads. Yeah, hopefully they didn't hit you guys too bad on those. I don't get to set those. They're just there. But anyways, that was my setup for my competition vehicle for the first of the winter series, that warm-up. I've really got my hopes up for that. And the BrazinScale chassis, I'm about to get the real deal. So yeah, that one, I didn't go into the axle setup on that one. You'll just have to see. It's going to be sort of similar, sort of, but also very different. And it's going to have two extra features that this one doesn't have. It's going to be interesting. Going to be an interesting build. It should be a one of a kind. Anyway, guys, hopefully you liked the video. Just wanted to show you guys a little bit of what I do to get stuff ready and all that. So check that description. If you heard me burp, yeah, you're awesome. Anyway, check that description. I'll try to put links to all the stuff up down below. Amen, eBay, Amazon, Horizon helps out the channel when you guys use them. They are affiliate links. So guys, check that description. Use those links. Hit that subscribe and ring that bell. If you have to hit the subscribe now, and you've been watching all this video, you're one of a kind. But hit that button. Guys, catch you later. If you're still watching, you are top shelf. You are the cream of the crop, the pick of the litter. You are phenomenal. Thank you for watching to the end of the video. It means a lot to me. Now, down below, there are links for the products you see, also for channel memberships. If you guys want to be a part, channel members get early viewing on pretty much everything that I can. So, guys, check that description. There's a lot of info down there. Thank you all for watching.